All right, guys. What is going on? We're going to get into the show pretty quickly. It is obviously a little bit of a different time than we are usually coming on here. The day, honestly, was just a busy one, so wasn't really able to jump on at the usual time that I do. But either way, we said we're back in routine with the podcast, so we are sticking to it. This is number 4 this week, so you can expect another one tomorrow as well. But we are going to get into it really quickly. Today, guys, we're talking about negative thoughts. So, negative thoughts in your training, negative thoughts, as you're coming up into competition, whatever else it might be, because I know this is something that I get asked about quite frequently. So, I wanted to give you guys some of my insights into what to do when negative thoughts start creeping in. So, we're going to go into the show now in 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Elite Development Podcast, the number one show for athletes looking to gain an edge on their opponents and build their dream careers in sport. I am your host, Kenny Dusseault, and today we are talking about negative thoughts. So when I say negative thoughts, what I'm talking about is within your training, as an example, for a lot of athletes, fight week, that's going to be a time that a lot of people have that self-doubt start creeping in. And a lot of the time, when that self-doubt creeps in, we need strategies to work through it. We need strategies to, move past it and be able to get the negative thoughts out of the head and start to, reframe them. So the first thing is think about what those negative thoughts are that might come up for you. Because really and truly, in my personal opinion, if you say that you never experience any kind of negative thoughts at all about, bad outcomes or whatever else it might be when it comes to competing, personally, I think you're lying. I've never met anyone that truly doesn't experience that ever. But let's get into it. So a lot of the time when I talk to athletes, the negative thoughts that come up are, number one, something along the lines of well, what if I put in all of this work and the fight doesn't go my way? Number two is what if I get hurt or what if I get embarrassed, that really doesn't go my way? And I get embarrassed in front of my friends and family that have come to watch me. And then just, there's a wide variety of other things that might be coming into your head. But a lot of the time it is, we're going to see a lot of those kind of thoughts when we're coming close to competition. So when this happens to you, I've got a few things that I want to talk about today. When this happens to you, number one, you need to understand it's normal. So for myself anyway, when negative thoughts come into my head, when, whatever situation I might be in and I start thinking negatively, I used to think that I was the only one that thought that way. And it was like a weird thing for me to, think that something might not go my way or be concerned that I was going to work hard at something and it wasn't going to work out for me. I used to think that I was the weird one for thinking that way. But then when I started talking about it, when I started mentioning it to someone, I'm like, man, I feel like I'm working so hard, but what if it doesn't go my way? Then I remember people started responding. They were like, yeah, I think about that all the time, but you just need to try anyway. Right? So you got to understand it's normal. You got to understand that every single one of the negative thoughts rolling through your head about not being good enough, about not putting in enough time, or about not getting a result that you want, whatever it might be, every single negative thought rolling through your head, most people around you have thought it at one point about themselves too. I'm going to say that one more time. Most people around you have thought that about themselves at one point too. So you've got to understand it's normal, because when I would start feeling these things, then I would beat myself up because I didn't think it was normal for me to feel these things. And then that would make the negative thoughts worse, right? I'd be worried about, the game that I was going into or the competition I was going into or whatever else other situation I might be in. And then I was worrying about the fact that I was worrying about the fact that I was going into this competition and I wasn't feeling confident. And then that would just continue to escalate and escalate and escalate. But as soon as I realized that everybody else feels these things too, I could get off my back a little bit and understand that this is fucking normal. It's fine. Now, the next thing we've got to talk about, the next thing you've got to understand is that if you can't control it, you need to forget it. And that's a very simple quote, and it's a very obviously easier said than done. But you've got to understand. So one of the things I hear a lot of athletes say, and this is going to tie back to that quote, but one of the things I often hear athletes say is They'll do everything they can to outwork their opponent. And the problem with that statement is you can't control the work that your opponent's doing. And now, don't get me wrong, this isn't me saying you shouldn't try to work really hard. This isn't me saying you shouldn't try to push yourself. This is me saying that you need to forget about what your opponent's doing because you don't know what your opponent's doing. And the reason it's so important that you forget about what your opponent's doing because you don't know is because what you're going to start doing to yourself is you're going to start not just working hard, and then not just going the extra mile, but going more and more and more to the point where you start to beat yourself down. Excuse me. You start to break down your body because yes, hard work is massively important, but guys, I've said it a million times. If you follow me, you have likely heard me say it already. Hard work is important, but it is one piece of a very big puzzle. And if you are not taking care of the rest of the puzzle, then you're likely going to burn your body out, get injured. And if you get injured, then you're coming into the fight a shell of yourself, despite the fact that you put in all those hours. Because the goal of training camp should not be to outwork your opponent. The goal of your training camp should be to win your fight. I know that sounds simple, but I'm going to say it again. The goal of training camp should not be to outwork your opponent. The goal of training camp should be to win your fight. And what do you need in order to win your fight? You need to be strong. You need to be fast. You need to be explosive. You need to be able to repeat those strong, explosive, fast efforts for the duration of your fight. And you need a very good skill set. You don't need to do more hours than your opponent. You need that. And if you are just focused on getting that, building the strength, building the power, building the speed, keeping the body healthy, and like I said as well, improving the skill set, you are going to give yourself the best chance to win. If your focus is, I need to do more than this guy who I have no insight into whatever he's doing, you're not giving yourself the best chance to win. Right? And the same thing, you cannot control the outcome of a fight. You just can't. You can obviously do a lot of things in the lead up to give yourself the best chance at the outcome you want. But if you spend all your time focusing on, I need to win, I need to win, I need to win, then everything that you need to do in the fight goes out the window because all you're focused on is winning. All you're focused on is not losing. But if you can take that same energy you're putting into winning and put that into performing, now the win takes care of itself. You're not worrying about, oh, how did the judge see that? Oh, what's going on here? You're just focused on how do I put my best foot forward in every single minute, every single second of this fight. And if you're able to think that way, the win takes care of itself. Now, again, does that mean you're going to win every single time you step in there? Of course not. That's unrealistic. I cannot sit here and promise you that. But what I want to talk about and what I want to enforce with you is the mindset you need to give yourself the best chance. And the mindset you need to give yourself the best chance is focusing on what you can control, which is performing, not winning. And when you focus on performing, more often than not, the win takes care of itself. And finally, guys, the last thing that you really need to understand when negative thoughts are coming through your mind, when the mindset's failing you a little bit, your mind needs to be trained just like any other muscle in the body. It just does. And so if you wonder why you struggle with your mindset, you can't just sit there and say, well, I struggle with my mindset. Yeah, it's a tough part. You got to work on it. You've got to work on it. So one of the things for myself, and I keep coming back to examples about myself. And the reason I do this, guys, I might not be training for fights, but I'm running a pretty big company. I have a team of 3 that work for me. I'm, traveling a lot. I'm working with very high level athletes around the world. So I have a lot going on in my life, and my mindset used to be one of my biggest struggles until I started working on it every day. So the first thing I do is every single day I wake up at the same time. And the reason I wake up at the same time every single day is because when I wake up, the alarm goes off and I don't hit the snooze button and I get out of bed right away. That's just a little mental win in the bank. And that sounds like a, rah, motivational kind of thing, but it's just a little mental win in the bank. Because starting the day off, you're starting the day off in a positive way. You said you were going to wake up at this time, you did. The next thing I do is that I meditate for 10 to 15 minutes every morning. And every single morning, that meditation is focused on how I'm going to approach the day and focused on my future. I have goals that I have written up on my wall, and I focus in on those, and I sit and I just think about what I'm working towards. I think about what today is going to hold, and I just breathe. I keep my body calm. I keep myself relaxed, and I just breathe. Now that just centers me. So if there's a lot going on in the day, I'm starting it from a really calm place. The next thing I do is I journal, and I journal for probably about 10 minutes. And really, I'm just writing down goals. I'm writing down how I'm going to approach the day, and I'm writing down things I'm grateful for. And that gratitude thing, I always have people tell me that, it's cheesy and all that. But honestly, as soon as I started sitting down and actually putting pen to paper and talking about the things I have in my life that I'm grateful to have, it just reignites something else. You to put pen to paper, you talk about the things you're grateful for, and immediately it just makes me want to do more within the day. I'm like, man, life is good. Even if I'm feeling a little negative about whatever else it might be, I write down 3 to 5 things in my life that I'm happy I have. And immediately I just remind myself, life is good. Put yourself in a positive mindset and go crush a fucking day. And that is literally what I do for my mindset on a day-to-day basis. It's not all day. It's not, hours of work that I'm putting into it. It's probably about 20 to 25 minutes total. But that 20 to 25 minutes that I spend on me starts my day with some wins, starts my day in a positive mindset, starts my day from a calm place. And then even if I'm writing out my to-do list and my to-do list is 47 things long, which is not a stretch, then I'm starting it from a calm place. I'm like, cool, I've got 12, 13 hours today. I got 47 things to cross off. Let's get to work. And I'm not freaking out about it. I'm not anxious about it. I'm not nervous about it. And the one other thing I do during the day to work on my mindset too, that I would highly recommend every single person, whether you're here live or whether you're listening to this on the replay, I would highly recommend you do as well, is every single day, whenever I catch myself using negative language about myself, I switch it. So like one of the things I used to always say to myself is like, no, I would do something, I would make a mistake of some sort, and I would tell myself that I was stupid. I'd be sitting there and be like, fuck, Kenny, you're such an idiot. And then now every time I hear myself say that, I'll stop myself and be like, no, you're not an idiot. You just made a mistake. It happens. And this kind of shit seems small, but what it does is every single time you put yourself down that way, every single time you call yourself an idiot, every single time you tell yourself you're not good enough, you're shitty or whatever, then what happens is you set that into your brain. You start approaching your day like you're an idiot. You start approaching your day like you're not good enough. You start approaching your day like you're not as good as this person or that person. But when you stop and you reframe it in your mind, now every time I reframe that and I say, you're not an idiot, you just made a mistake, it happens, I don't sit with the mistake as long. And when I don't sit with the mistake as long, I get back on track with whatever I'm doing. When I get back on track with whatever I'm doing, I continue to crush the day. So guys, that's it. That's all. I hope you got some good stuff out of that. With these kind of mindset topics, it's always an interesting discussion because, my goal is just to tell you guys the kind of things that I work on for this and hope that some of it resonates with you as well. So I hope you got some good out of that. I hope that gave you a good little insight into me, but also I hope you got some stuff that you can take away as well. If you did, I would love to know what it is. Shoot me a message across any of my social media platforms and tell me what you took away. But as always, guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. I appreciate you so much for tuning in, and I will talk to you on the next episode. All right, guys, what is going on? We're going to do a little bit of Q&A.